Welcome to the first ever Current Backloggers Award Show. Cody, I don't like how you're looking. Anyways,
Welcome back to the first ever award show brought to you by Current Backloggers. Welcome, Casey. Hi, how's it going?
I think your audio is messing up or something. Otherwise known as the CBAs. I'm here with my good friend Cody G. Cody, how does it feel to be at the award show?
Feels great, Casey.
We could just take sound. It'd be awesome to take sound clips out of the video game awards and put it into ours because those were already fake, and then use our fake ones on ours.
Yeah, just now I felt like on Dodgeball, that real douchey guy, where he never really adds anything to it.
Uh-huh.
Yes, they're doing really good out there. This is an award show. Everybody welcome.
All right, so before we get into this, I'll just go over. I kind of want to Cody before he started. We only have a few categories this year, so I'll run through those first. We got Game of the Year, and I'll kind of explain these going into it. So Game of the Year is just going to be our personal favorite games, not necessarily the best. Like what do you think? The best done game? I don't know how to put it, or the best performing games, I should say, because I feel like, for one, all this is subjective to begin with. There is some things that are objective, like how well a game runs or graphics or things like that. But majority of it is subjective, especially because there's a ton that we can't play. So this is going to be our favorite games. All the categories, we can do up to 5 nominees. That's what this is going to be, just a nominee show. And then next week we'll do the award show. And then you don't have to fill up to 5, though. And we're going to leave any spots that don't have that. We're going to have a week to fill in if you want to think of anything for either of us. Not the audience, me and Cody, that is. So the next one is Game of the Year from another year, which with this one, it's any game that we played for the first time this year that is from a different year.
Exactly right, Casey. Thank you so much.
I was like, what the hell is happening? So this is a good category because, like I talked about with our first award, the Game of the Year, is that we're not going to be able to play most of the games, and there's going to be so many games that probably would be our Game of the Year, but we won't know it till later, so this gives us a chance going forward. And then Movie of the Year, same thing for Movie of the Year from another year, and then Podcast of the Year. We're planning on doing this every year, and going forward, we're going to have a lot more categories and have this in mind starting throughout the beginning of the year so we can way better track things and have a way better way of doing this. But do you want to start with your nominees? We could start with podcast, since that's probably like the least exciting.
We can definitely do that, Casey. All right. Podcast of the year. Do I just start with the least one?
Well, I wouldn't rank them. I'll just do them.
Ooh,
Yeah, I almost made the same mistake. I didn't put them in numbers. Well, I'm not going to pay attention to my numbers. I'm just going to say them randomly.
Okay. The number one nomination for me out of the 5 podcasts of the year is the Joe Rogan Experience number 1555 with Alex Jones and Tim Dillon.
Oh. Awkward. I should have told you. I did podcast of the year just like in general, like a podcast platform. Maybe you.
I did specific episodes.
Oh, awkward. I guess I should have clarified that more. That's so in depth. I don't know if I could do that. I'm impressed by you, but because I just said, of course, I knew that was on there, but then he started saying other stuff. I'm like, wait, what? And, oh, I see what he's doing. So it's up to you if you want to keep doing it that way. You can for yours, or if you want to just okay.
And then the second one is the Current Backloggers episode 1/live stream. That was the only time we'll be on the same list as Joe Rogan and us.
You said Current Backloggers episode 1 live stream, you said?
Episode 1/live stream. It's a
Oh,
hard choice. Yeah.
oh, okay. So you put two in there. I gotcha.
Episode 1 was the start of it, but live stream I feel like was the most fun I've had.
Okay.
The next one is Dan Bell Ram in the Poconos, episode 157. That's over on Patreon.
That
The
didn't
next
deserve
one
applause.
is The Church with Joey Diaz, number 759 with Tim Dillon, cocksucker. The next one then would be the Nick DiPaolo Show, number 440 with Artie Lang and election tampering. And the next one would be the Concrete Podcast with Frank Amadeo and the bipolar billionaire who planned to become an emperor of the world. That's an interesting one. I strongly recommend you should check out. There's this billionaire that definitely thought he was going to take over the world. And I'd almost say he's schizophrenic with the how they talked about him. Like he'd really intelligent. So while he was in prison, he'd be helping guys get work through their court case and be like discussing really specific intricate things, and just would randomly break out like, the world will bow to me, and when they all surrender, then they'll know. And then he'll just go back to the court case. He actually bought jets too. He bought a bunch of old military jets and was going to have them fitted for weapons, and I think like the Ukraine or some shit. So it's Frank Amadeo. He's still currently locked up, unfortunately, because I think he'd have the world's best podcast. But that's all my podcasts.
Okay. So that's probably awful if you're listening to podcasts. You don't like the heads up seeing your phone come up there?
Well, if you want fucking live applause, go fuck yourself.
I'm sorry?
Not you, buddy. The listeners.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fuck you guys.
Yeah, I'm sorry that we have so many audience members.
So my podcast, my 5 are IGN Game Scoop. IGN is where I started loving podcasts. I feel like they were one of the first companies that recognized how big podcasts would be. And Game Scoop was one of the first, back when Greg Miller was still on there. And Damon Hatfield has been on there for as long as I've been listening, and he's actually still running it, which is kind of crazy. So I'm definitely not as big a fan of IGN podcasts as I used to be, because most of the personalities that I liked, kind of like a TV show or something when it gets old, most of them are gone. But Game Scoop I still listen to more than most of them, and Damon Hatfield's still on it, like I said, and I always liked him. I met him, and he's super nice too, so that doesn't hurt. So that's one of mine. My next one would be the Giant Bombcast. This was a podcast I listened to almost every time it comes out. I tell you, I have like top podcasts I listen to every episode, and I have a bunch of like backups. Game Scoop used to be one of the go-tos. Now it's kind of like a backup one. But the Giant Bombcast is still consistently one I always listen to.
Yeah, and if I want something gaming related and Colin's tapped out, that's definitely a go-to for me too.
Yeah. That was actually one of the first non-IGN podcasts I found, because I liked IGN so much, and I liked podcasts so early on before a lot of people did. Not trying to be hipster. I remember that talking to my friends, and why would you listen to that? That's like the radio. I was like, I know, but it's so interesting. It's different, and a lot of stuff that you can't find on the radio. And it's also, you can play it whenever you want. You don't have to like wait for a certain hour. But I found that because I was so interested in IGNs. I was like, man, is there any other video game ones? And I remember it was Christmas Eve night, actually, was when I found it. One of my weird memories. I listened to their Game of the Year show, which I told you, as long as you don't mind spoilers, which the games they were talking about at the time, I used to keep up with the games so much more that I played all of them or didn't care about the ones they were talking about if I hadn't played them.
Mm-hmm.
That they do such a cool like breakdown and debate of how they do their awards. And it's just like one of the most interesting things I've seen, if you don't mind spoilers. And then that got me hooked on the Giant Bombcast, and I listened to all their award show podcasts that night, and then kept listening ever since.
What
And
year did they start doing a podcast?
oh God, I'd have to look it up. Like I said, that's why I try and look up these years now before I say it, because I'm so bad at years. Like you said, all this runs together. That would be like, probably like 2010, and then I look it up, and it's probably like 2007 or something. Not really. I'm just saying that's how far off my. I'm like, I think I could guess that. And then my years are always so fucked up. I know actually, I do remember the first one I listened to. I think they were debating Metal Gear Solid 4, so it would be like PS3 time. So around there. But that's when I started listening to it too. They obviously started before that. And
Yeah.
then my next one is actually another IGN one. I know you're not a fan of him, but I think this is one of the most interesting podcasts in general. Is IGN Unfiltered, which is Ryan McCaffrey's podcast. And the reason I like it is because he gets either really big name or at least really interesting people and does like a long breakdown of their gaming history, not just like the games they play, but how they got in the industry or where they're at or talking about their career. And as much as I like gaming podcasts and like personalities and everything, we talked before about even documentaries. There's just not enough like deep dive into video games, and I feel like he does a really good job of doing that. It's unfortunately like probably on average like once a month, and probably why the content's so good because you don't rush them out and there's not just like the gaming news every week. But those are super interesting if you want more of like a deep dive into video games and like the world of video games. And then my next two are both call-in podcasts. Sacred Symbols, of course. The PlayStation podcast we reference all the time on here. And then Knockback, which I don't listen to as much. That's another one. Not that I listen to sporadically. I just see what the topic is normally. So a lot of them interest me, but other ones I don't care to listen to, or they kind of deep dives or whatever they're talking about. So I don't want it spoiled if I haven't seen it. So a lot of times I'll intentionally avoid it. But the ones that I do like, they just break things down so well and are super interesting. So that's why, even though I don't listen to a lot like these other ones, it's on my list here. But that's my five.
Cool,
So
cool.
if you want, we
Well,
can.
that's all gaming.
Yeah, I listened to other podcasts, but the more I looked at them, I was like, I like these, but from all the ones I listen to, I don't think I'd put them ahead of any of those.
Besides us, almost all of mine are comedians.
Yeah, I did have, would have in other years had a comedy button on there, and I do like it, but I don't listen to it nearly as much as I used to.
But those guys are not comedians.
Hey, were you there for their riff track thing of Home Alone, or were you not there for that we put on?
No, I enjoyed it. I
I was
just
gonna
like giving them
say,
shit for how
yeah, that.
political they are.
Oh, I know. Yeah, that shit was comedy gold. Speaking of old cabal with Home Alone, uh, but we can move on to movie of the year if you want.
Okay, movie of the year. Well, first I put a little TV show in there just because I know you mentioned it and I thought about it before.
Okay.
We'll do the little TV show. Little well, I won't actually say. I tell you what, I'll tell you which one I thought was the best. I think the best TV show that I watched this year, that came out this year, is Tiger King. Shocker. Um, Thank you, Casey, for the T-shirt.
Oh, no problem.
Um, then probably How To with John Wilson. It's a HBO Max exclusive. It's amazing. It's pretty well shot. And then The Pharmacist, which is another Netflix documentary. That documentary TV show I think would have been bigger if it didn't come out like right before Tiger King. But yeah, let's see. The first movie on my list is Hubie Halloween, Bloodshot, Onward, and Jasper Mall. Those are the four. These are literally the only four movies I watched this year that came out this year, besides the Monster Hunter that we watched tonight.
Okay.
So I have five movies that I watched this year that came out this year.
Okay. Uh, so yeah, like I said, we any that don't have the full five in it will have till next week to be able to fill in if we think of anything or watch anything or play anything in that time frame. So,
Yeah, I can add Monster Hunter to this.
but only if you want to. I didn't see a ton of movies this year either. When I looked at it, and I was gonna do that too and just put in movies just because I saw them. But I was like, unless I think I'd actually be okay with being in my top 5, then I didn't put them in there. So
I mean, they weren't bad. I didn't watch a single bad. Those five I mentioned were not bad movies.
yeah, no, I got you.
Granted, I have really fucking low standards, though.
So my top 5, or my 5 nominations, are The Tenant, Christopher Nolan's newest movie, which I think is really enjoyable and the kind of movie that should definitely be seen on the big screen. I think there's plenty of movies you don't need to see the big screen. I know I advocate for that because I love movie theaters, but I think there are plenty that are perfectly fine watching your house. But I do think I think it's pretty clear with how he advocates for movie theaters that he intentionally makes his movies to be seen in the theaters. And I think this one's definitely amplified by that. I did really enjoy it. I said at the time, I still feel this way, that a lot of people are saying it's potentially his best movie yet. I wouldn't even put it in his top 3, but which might sound like an insult, but he has made incredible movies, obviously. So even a lower tier movie for him, I think, is still a candidate for movie of the year, especially with how little movies we had this year, which is what you'll be able to tell by probably both of our lists. That on normal years, I feel like a lot of these wouldn't even make the list, but we're working with what we got right now. So my next one was Sonic, which I don't think is a mind-blowing movie or anything stand out in particular, but I really enjoyed it, and that's why I said that's kind of how I'm basing mine off of. And I do think it's a solid movie for what it is. If you go into it knowing it's going to be goofy and kind of a fun, kiddish movie, I think that's what they're going for, and I think it's done really well. I think it's also pays homage to Sonic very well, which is surprising, especially with the initial launch of the Sonic trailers that we were seeing. So Sonic's on here for me, and then Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous. And what's this? Shit. That's why they did this ridiculous title. I wanted to get it right though. Let me look it up here. Emancipation. That's right. The Fabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn, which is the worst name ever. But that's why it's all subtitled, because everybody's called Birds of Prey. And if you remember, this movie did so poorly, and people are saying it was because of the name that they changed it to Harley Quinn's Bird of Prey, because everybody said that it was her name, wasn't like the prominent thing, so nobody even knew what it was. Which is a bummer, because I think the movie is genuinely great and a lot of fun. So if you haven't watched Birds of Prey, I would definitely do that. It's a ton of fun. My next one is a very recent movie. Went straight to Disney Plus, unfortunately, because it's supposed to be out in the theaters, and that is Pixar's newest movie, Soul.
Oh, thank God. I thought you were going to say Mulan.
Oh, no. I haven't watched it yet, so I can't say either way. But, I'm not even a big fan of the original, which blows people's mind. I think it's good, but I'd put it on the lower tier for Disney movies, so I'm sure I feel even less about the live action.
That's like one of my top 5 Disney movies,
Mulan. Soul is, I think, visually one of their best movies yet. And I don't think it has the impact or like the pulls on your strings like a lot of Pixar movies. I think it is telling a good story and has a good message, but there's just something about it that doesn't really seem impactful. I would say maybe we're just getting used to Pixar doing that and you know what to expect, but I've seen some of their more recent movies and it still gets me sometimes. So I don't think it's that we're getting used to it. But there just was something odd about this, that it had a good message, but I was just kind of like, oh yeah, that was a good movie, and kind of just ended. Jamie Foxx is the lead voice actor. I hate Jamie Foxx, but he did a really good job with it. If you haven't watched Soul, I highly suggest it, especially, I know you had Onward on your list. I wasn't the biggest Onward fan. I don't think it's bad. It's just, it'd be on the lower end of Pixar's movies for me. So I'll be curious to see.
It's the opposite, man.
Yeah, that's why I'd be curious to see what you think of Soul, since you're such a fan of that. If you saw Soul and you're like, I thought the movie was terrible, or if you really like it like I do. Huh.
I said it's got a lot of soul.
Uh, and then my last one, we actually have crossover for the first time. And people probably think we're trolling if they don't know us, but Hubie
Can I guess?
Halloween. Oh, shit,
Oh, I
sorry.
knew it. I knew
Yeah,
it. I knew it.
I believe that's what you would guess. I believe you. I still feel the same way I did about this movie. Anybody that was putting like award show of like the best quality of movie and like best performance and everything, I think it'd be hard to put this movie anywhere even close to the top. But for what we're doing, judging our favorite and what we had the most fun with, I think it's deserving of it. I knew what I was getting out of it, and I think it delivered on that, which is what I was looking for at the time. And it was a perfect movie at the time, just wanting something that
And
was.
Renee's such a psycho Adam Sandler fan that she knew that was his daughters.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
She knew their fucking names. Almost threw her out of this house, you weirdo.
Well,
I like Adam Sandler, but I think Renee loves Adam Sandler. Like, if he knocked on the door right now, like, hey, just, leave this fool and come live with me, I think she would leave.
I believe that, but I think if like Hitler got reincarnated and did that, she'll leave as well. So I don't think it's really Adam Sandler. I think it's more so you.
Whoa, bud.
But we can move on to that's my nominees for movie of the year. So we can move on to movies of the year from another year. And you're talking about Adam Sandler as her. I can't really judge based off of one of my movies on here. You can start though if you want.
Okay. Dallas Buyers Club. Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, you haven't seen either of
Jackson.
those?
No.
Really? I thought you saw both of them. I thought you were just rewatching them.
I started Dallas Buyers Club when it first came out. Then got halfway through with my dad, and we're like, "Oh, we'll finish this later."
Yeah.
And then we never finished it.
Okay.
I watched half of it when it came out, and then Wolf of Wall Street, which reason I didn't watch it initially is I was like, I can't fucking sit in a theater for 3 hours, and then I was like, I don't want to sit and watch a movie for 3 hours. And after reading Matthew McConaughey's book, I sat down and watched all 3 hours of it, and it's fantastic. Taxi Driver, The Death of Stalin, and Gonzo, the documentary. All five of these are like huge critically acclaimed movies.
Mhm.
Well, The Death of Stalin, not really, but kind of.
I
Gonzo too.
I only have actually two on my list for this one. I think this is definitely one that I'm missing some on and might fill in more
Really?
later. Yeah, I think I had to be missing some. I mean, I have rewatched a lot of stuff that doesn't count to this that I know would be above these movies, but I'm trying to think of things I particularly watched this year that are from another year that I haven't watched. So I only have two. I will say though, before I move on to this, that's probably a nice thing about listening to that fucking audiobook is that it probably drags on. Is like 15 hours of your life. That 3 hours of something that is even shit. You're just like, well, I can do this. So it probably makes you appreciate time. Be like, I can do anything now.
You thought Wolf of Wall Street was shit?
No, I said that even if something was, I haven't seen it. Even if something
Oh.
was shit, that because you didn't know going into it that could have been shit, but you're like, well, I just listened to this 15-hour thing, so I can watch this 3 hour thing.
Oh, to go back to the Frank Amadeo, the crazy bipolar billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
There's a prison where all those like blue collar, like high end blue collar. I don't even know what I call them, blue collar crime. I don't know where I put them, but those guys that figure out how to play the system and rob people of shit.
Mm-hmm.
They all go to prison together. So Frank Amadeo, and then the guy that kind of leads the Concrete podcast or brings all these people in, they were all in prison with the real Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh.
I believe that's how it was, or they know each other mutually. And the real Wolf of Wall Street is back out. He's out. He didn't spend that long in prison, but he's back out and he's selling stock advice again, I believe.
Huh.
But yeah, all those guys are connected, and they all go to prison together. Which if I have to go to prison, I want to go there. Just the stories on this podcast, the Concrete podcast. This seems like the fucking place to be. It sounds so insane. With all these these guys, if they would have just used their brains for something other than fucking robbing people, they would have been the next Steve Jobs. But because they're such criminals and shitheads. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. So my movies of the year from another year, we have.
Huh?
You want a drum roll for this one? Cats.
Oh, Casey, no. The fuck? Did you just listen to the list I read off? Really, like some of the, like
That's why I
three of
told
those
you I had a
are.
similar one as well.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I don't know if I actually said that. I meant to say that. I think I might have missed my joke there. Because I was, especially with my next one, it actually would be similar to yours, but I was like, I'll lead with cats. Um, it might sound like a troll, and I definitely, if I could think of more, it would maybe be off the list. But as much of a meme as it turned into, I really enjoyed it. And I hate musicals, and those songs get stuck in my head. And Danielle will tell you I play them pretty often, and I actually like them, even some of the non-Taylor Swift songs, because that's what I was gonna bring in Adam Sandler to this. I can't really judge Renee because I could probably tell you a ton of creepy facts about Taylor Swift that nobody would want to know. So, I mean, I can't really judge that she knows the kids' names. I know Taylor Swift's fucking cat names. That's not even that rare. I mean, she's pretty public about it. But, so I can't
It'd
judge
be a
there.
weird thing to be in the private about.
Yeah, it would. But, um, I mean, a
What
lot
are
of
cats' names? What are they?
it's Olivia,
Of course.
Meredith, and
Oh,
Benjamin.
Jesus Christ. Are those cats or a roster for a nursing home? The fucking.
You put me on the spot too. I almost looked like I was just like, oh, I know a lot about Taylor Swift because then you asked, oh shit, what are they? I can't remember any of them now. And I was
Oh,
like, oh
she
wait,
had
they're
a
coming
fourth
back to me.
cat, Gertrude. It sounds like all of her cats use walkers.
You seen picture them though. I don't even like. Well, I don't like her cats either, but you would fucking love them.
Oh yeah, those are my favorite. I think they're Himalayans.
So much hair. No, thank you. Um,
I think it's Himalayans.
then my next one, like I said, is not as high as tier. 1917, the war movie. Um, obviously way higher tier and fits more into your category.
For
I
sure.
I think it's definitely worth watching. I'm not as high on as other people are. I think the story is kind of bland and there's not much to it. It's pretty straightforward, which obviously it has to be because it's a true story. So you can't really edit something like that. It is what it is. But how it looks like it's all shot in one shot and the visuals of it, I think that alone is enough to put in this for me. And then the story, like I said, is not bad or like, oh God, what is this? Kind of just there to move it along, it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my two, and then I know I'm missing some. Even on my ones I have five filled in, I know I'm missing some, but we'll leave ours that are set at five set that way, and then any that aren't at five we can fill in up until
When did
next week.
Sonic come out?
It came out in uh, February this year. It came out Valentine's Day, which is a great Valentine's movie. That and Birds of Prey came out the same day. We went to see him for Valentine's Day, which is I had to check myself on that because when I was trying to think of movies from this year, I was like, I really like both of those, but those didn't come out this year because, like we said, this is like the longest, shortest year ever. I can't
Oh
fucking
yeah.
thinking about seeing those movies. I was like, I can't believe that was this year. That is nuts, especially how normalized all this ridiculous shit is now. Because we went there and it was crazy busy. Everybody was there. Nobody's wearing a mask. I get that. Obviously, I know why it is the way it is now. But it's weird thinking about just like 10 months ago how different everything is and how normalized all this weird shit is now.
Yeah.
But we go all night with that. And we can talk about that on a regular podcast. So if you want to start with, we can do. What do you want to start with for this for nominees? Game of the year or game of the year from another year?
Let's do from another year.
All right, let's hear it.
Uh, Gears 4, Jedi Fallen Order, Man of Medan, What Remains of Edith Finch, and The Witcher.
Okay. Have you finished The Witcher yet? You don't have to. Put it
No.
on. Okay. Some of mine I haven't finished as well. I wasn't being like, I wasn't. Have you finished it? You better have finished it. I think there's some games. I think there's some games that definitely rely on finishing it, but I think there's plenty of games that you can tell what it's going to be in a certain amount of time. But that's also, like I said, another reason why we have this category and why I think it'd be good to keep it going forward because there's no way that there's if I played all the games that came out this year, this list would be so different. Like Ghost of Tsushima, Cyberpunk, all these like top games, even if they're not end up being my favorite, some of them would be. But there's just no way to play all these games, or even if we have, you can't finish all of them. So my game of the year from another year, my nominations are the Dark Pictures Anthology, Man of Medan, so another one that lines up crossover with you. I'll throw another crossover with you, What Remains of Edith Finch, Sunset Overdrive, and The Unfinished Swan, which is another Giant Sparrow game that people made, What Remains of Edith Finch.
Shit, I forgot about Sunset Overdrive. I would have put it on here.
You want to swap one out while we're on the show now?
Sure.
What are you taking out? Moment of truth. The Witcher. Okay.
Yep. Let's see. Cool.
All right, so we can move on to nominations for Game of the Year. Or our favorite game of the year.
I did 7. Just throw some memes in there for you guys, because I know how much you
oh god, I know one of them.
Fucking shitheads like this game. It's a coffee talk. It has no fucking chance of winning.
You never know.
Minecraft Dungeons, Fall Guys, Dreams, Among Us, Call of Duty Warzone, and Grounded.
Is Dreams another meme? Or
yeah.
See, that's sad because I had that on my list. I narrowed it down because I actually had more than 5 on this category. I took that out. So I'm sad it's a meme for you because it was a contender for me.
So I mean, it's okay. I was really kind of this list is more of me regurgitating everything I played. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
Wasn't that great.
It's actually weird. Dreams, I told you how it's like a main campaign. And I actually think that's really well done and different than most things now, which is one of the reasons I liked it, how unique that was, aside from all the user-created stuff, which obviously that's where the game really shines. But the reason I bring that up, I meant to mention when I was talking about Soul, the Dreams main campaign reminded me a lot of Soul for some reason. It kind of had a similar vibe and story to it, which is another reason why I think Soul connected with me so much, because I told you I love that campaign in Dreams, which is weird because that's like the last thing I thought I would care about in Dreams. But for my Game of the Year nominations, I have the Dark Pictures Anthology, Little Hope, Last of Us Part 2, which is a game I haven't finished, and that's why I said on our last episode I'm going to make sure I finish it by next week, because that's a game that I think is very narrative-driven. So I think it being Game of the Year would definitely be dependent on how I feel about the story. I played enough of it that I think it's definitely worthy of being a nomination just by how impressive everything else is in it. But as far as actually being the winner, I feel like that's very dependent on the story it's telling. Twin Breaker, A Sacred Symbols Adventure, and not just because we talk about them and reference them a lot, but I told you this is a game I wasn't even sure I would like. I did just want to support them. And even if I liked it, I thought it'd be like, I played it for 10 minutes and, oh, that was cool. And I wish I had a tracker of all the games I played across all systems. This would have to be in the top 5, maybe even top 2, but definitely top 5 games I put a time into this year, which is mind-blowing to me. So I can't really leave it off the list. And I think it's really well done for what it is, too. These next 2 I haven't played enough, but kind of like I talked about, sometimes you know what you're getting with the game and know how you feel about it, is one that I put very little time into. I referenced on our last episode, Spyro, the Reignited trilogy. And I know that it's worthy of it because I beat all those games and I love them. And like I started to talk about, I didn't go all the way into it on the episode because I knew I could talk about it here more, is how it makes you feel like the game that you remembered in your mind playing that long ago, but bring it to modern day. Kind of like if you play Halo now, the original Halo Combat Evolved, this game is fucking broken. And then you play Combat Evolved Anniversary, and you're like, man, this is exactly as I remembered it. And then it's mind-blowing going back to the old one and being like, this game is hardly runnable. And looking at old Spyro videos, it is a fucking mess. And I'm not even obviously seeing the control or playing with the controls of it, but even just visually is a mess. And seeing what they did with this makes me so excited to play it and have that feeling of old school platformers, which I told you that's one of my favorite things. So I'm really excited to play more of that. And then my last one here is Planet Coaster Console Edition, because I'm a sucker for theme park simulators. Another one I haven't put enough time into, but I know what I'm getting out of it. It's not perfect for me, and I told you my favorite variation of this is Thrillville. I think they've done the best combination of simulation, but also not making it too complicated.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this one is very impressive and having a lot of fun with it. So that's my nominations for Game of the Year.
Cool.
Anything you want to add here?
Next year I just want to be better about playing stuff and being more organized about it and taking photos. Last year, a guy on a Metal Jesus Rocks Facebook group, he would just, every time he beat something, he'd put everything in a pile and just slowly add to the pile.
Mm-hmm.
So all of his photos would be of him adding shit. So I want to do something similar to social media. I could do that with books and DVDs and video games. So I hope to do that. That would be easier to keep up with shit.
No, for sure. We've kind of talked off the podcast before, but I feel the exact same way because I don't feel bad about the stuff I have on here, but I know that if I kept up, I'd have a way different list, even though I don't feel bad about this. And I've always wanted to do that even outside of a podcast. Like when I was seeing movies regularly and the theaters were all open, I was keeping a rankings of all of the movies I was seeing just for myself because I was curious to see at the end of the year, but I never kept up with it. So I think this will give me an excuse to do something I've always wanted to do, and also will help with one of the driving forces of the podcast, the backlog and doing stuff. I think it'll make a podcast more interesting each week. We don't have to break down like every time we add something, but I think this is a contender for Game of the Year or something as it we play stuff that we think like really sticks out. And next year, like I said, we'll have way more categories because we'll have a whole year of knowing we're doing this instead of like the last couple months being like, I think we should do this and kind of rushing all of our ideas. So things that we can think about going forward. Definitely, I have other categories in mind. I know Cody does. But if you guys have any categories that I mentioned before, definitely suggest them because we'll have a whole year to work with. And I can't fucking concentrate with that face. If you're listening to a podcast, you'll be happier not seeing the visuals. But also, your stuff is mainly physical, so it might not matter for you, but there is movie theaters and whatnot, so maybe a good idea to keep track, like a Google Doc or something.
Movie tickets.
What's that?
Take pictures of your movie tickets.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, I know for me, if I do it that way, I know I have them all over the place, and I'm like, shit, where is this? Where is this? So I'm just going to have one giant Google Doc for it. Because even like the podcast news, that's how I usually do. I take screenshots, and then as we get closer to podcasts, I'm go find them. And even that alone, each week, I'm like, oh shit, which one was this? So I know for me that'll never work, but you could always have like your own album. So yeah, there is a way to do it if you are good about it. I just know how to mix it up. But besides that, we'll definitely, like I said, it's called the Current Backloggers Awards Show, the CBAs. And I don't think I said the name of our awards on here, the Backloggers. That's what awards we'll give away. I think it'd be very funny to have physical awards for some of these sometime as well, and just put them on our own shelves for these developers. But I was thinking about that. I don't know if it might be worth it just to have it happen, see if we get any reaction out of it. And then, like I said, these categories I think are perfect for shit we missed this year even, because next year we can have games like Ghost of Tsushima, Cyberpunk, anything came out, or even years before. It doesn't have to be this current year, but I feel like we know this current year there's been a ton of big stuff that we both wanted to play or watch and missed out on. So I think that would be good. And then the plan is next week to do our normal podcast and have another separate show for the awards show and hopefully be in person. But if not, we might delay it. But that's the plan as of now for the CBAs 2020. The 2020 CBAs, as it were. I knew that sounded weird when I said that. All right. Is that it?
That's it.
Let's do it.
Peace.